Hey, welcome to the 4 Pillars of Men's Health. I'm so glad you're here today. Today we're going to be talking about what is the deal with all this health talk that we hear about in our society. But today I'm going to tell you how I found the fountain of youth and how you can come along with me and find that same thing. I went from literally pre-diabetic. I was almost nearly 250 pounds, sedate lifestyle, all those things, and I was able to go down that ugly road and find my way back to some really good things that I want to share with you about what I learned, and so that we can all jump on this wagon of good health and join me in that endeavor. And I'm so glad you're here. Today we're going to be talking about what I call the 4 pillars of men's health. They're my pillars. It's how I live. It's how I process. It's how I found my way to going from a 250-pound guy that couldn't run. My lower body, I was on back pain, knee pain, all kinds of joint pain. And now I'm doing Ironman. I'm running miles and miles on my bike and swimming. And I have so much energy, and I want to share that with you. And just real quick, the 4 pillars that I found that were so helpful for me to getting to that place of good health are accurate thinking, the way I process life, the food that I put into my body and how that impacts my life and the way I live. Exercise, getting my body into shape. And last but not least, and probably the most important thing for me, is my spiritual life and getting healthy in a spiritual way. And here's where it all started for me. I remember this so vividly in my mind. Years ago, probably like it's like maybe 15, 20 years ago. I had this really good friend who I worked closely with. He was a business associate, and we worked together on quite a few projects. And a guy calls me up on the phone. He says, "Dave, did you hear that our friend is in the hospital?" And I said, "No, I did not know that." And he said, "Yeah, he's in the hospital." And we all knew this. He was diabetic, and he didn't really, take good care of himself. And he found himself in the hospital, literally laying on the hospital bed with a doctor leaning over him. And I don't know how this works exactly, but in my mind, I picture this doctor with like a meat saw, and the guy is sawing off his leg because of his diabetes and the poor choices that he made. And it was it clicked with me, and I knew that I was in that same place, and it wouldn't be long until possibly I was the one laying on that hospital bed with that doctor leaning over me with that saw off my leg or whatever, doing some crazy stuff like that. And it just clicked with me, and I knew that I had to do something. And I did, and I found a way back to good health, and I want to share that with you. And the most disturbing thing about that whole story with my friend there that was in the hospital was that he was such a vibrant guy. He was a good guy, and he still is. I see him around Livingston. He walks around with a prosthetic leg in Livingston, Montana, and I see him. But the thing about that really gets me is that he was so creative and such a genius in his field, and that was all cut short. And it was cut short in the way that he cannot perform the things that he was so passionate and so skilled at. And I thought to myself, wow, how many guys, because of the choices that we make in our life, cut ourselves short with the mission and the things that are so important to us, and we can no longer do them because of the health issues that we brought on ourselves. And that's the thing that just really got in my craw and just really bugged me about that whole thing. And knowing that the same thing could happen to me. And then it wasn't too long after that that I heard, I got calls from several other guys, and like I think two of them got just in a matter of a short period of time, they got diabetes. They're diagnosed with diabetes. One guy, I remember hearing that he was overweight and he was in the hospital, and ever since then he's like a frequent visitor to the hospital, and it's all because of these poor choices that we make in these 4 areas of our life: the way we process life, the food that we put in our mouth, the way that we don't get out and get our exercise and get our body moving, and our spiritual life. It's all tied together. And those are the things that I want to talk about during our time together. And just real quickly, a real brief overview of that during this session. But one other thing that I think is so critical for us to understand is, when I was growing up, one of my favorite shows was The Lone Ranger. Hi-ho, Silver. He had this great horse. He had, he could do anything, man. I'm just like, everything just worked out so well for him. And he always caught the bad guy. And then I remember watching westerns like John Wayne, James Bond, and these guys would just like take a pounding. People would like shoot them up and blow holes in their body, break bones, and it wasn't too long until they were back at it again. And it was like miraculous, they would like, all of a sudden in one show they'd have a hole in their leg or a hole in their arm from a bullet, and the next minute they're like beating somebody up or somebody's beating them up. But you know what? Here's the truth about those people. Do you know that John Wayne died at a fairly young age of heart disease? And Ian Fleming, the guy that wrote the stories about James Bond, died at 56 years old because of some poor choices that he was making. And he died because he went out on a golf course against his doctor's orders. He caught some nasty bug, and it killed him. So the truth about life and the truth about getting healthy is we don't do it by ourselves. And I'm going to be talking about that. We're about building a team of people that can help us get our health back. And it's critical that we take that in and that we don't look at ourselves as a lone ranger. So let me just real quick dive into these 4 pillars. The first one is accurate thinking. And the way we process and think is so critical, and it's so powerful to the way we live our life. And the truth is that you can change the way you think. And you can change the thoughts that go through your head. You can change those things. And you can change into a healthy way of processing life. And I found some great ways of doing that. And in the near future, I'm going to share those with you. And it's just like so incredible and so powerful that we get a hold of those things about the way we process life and the way we think. And it's so critical. So, I heard one guy that I really respect kind of compare the way we think to a garden. And you can, like, my mom's a great gardener, and she's out there every day, weeding it, watering it, and things like that. But you know what? Well, when she does that, it grows this great crop. We have juicy tasting corn, carrots, all kinds of vegetables, green beans, peas, radishes, all those good vegetables. When she takes care of it, it just thrives and it grows and it creates this beautiful place that is so incredible and so productive. But the flip side to that is that same place where my mom plants that garden and maintains it. If she takes a summer off from that thing, and she doesn't maintain it, and she doesn't start like weeding it and watering it, guess what happens? you know what happens. It grows up a disastrous mess. And weeds are all over in there, and it's just a mess, and it's unproductive. And so think of that as the way you process life. Think about that, and that is so true about the way we think. And you can control that, and you can make a difference in the way you think, and it has a huge impact on your health. So that's the first pillar, the accurate thinking. The second pillar is nutrition. Now listen, I grew up southwest Montana, right in the mountains, man, on a ranch, and just with the greatest people. And I love it here. I still live here. In fact, I didn't move very far from home. And but our diet, the way we grew up, man, it was like meat, potatoes, bacon, and eggs. And you're out there like pounding it during the day. So those things, worked out pretty good. But the minute you start slowing down, pretty soon your belly starts getting big and you start having all kinds of health problems. And a lot of the guys that I know in my area that live that lifestyle that are my age are having some pretty severe health problems. And it's so critical to learn about what is the best food you can put in your mouth that goes into your digestive tract, and the nutrients from that food goes out and creates health in your body. And it's so critical for each one of us to find those types of foods and eat those kinds of foods and find a way to really enjoy those kinds of foods. And I don't think that's clear cut. It's different. Everybody's body is different, and so it's kind of a journey, a self journey. But one thing that we've got to get away from is what I call, and I've heard other people call, the SAD diet, Standard American Diet, SAD. It's the SAD diet. You go down to McDonald's, you order a Big Mac, and you get your big fries and a big old Coke. And I'll tell you, when you put that stuff in your body, I'm telling you, it's like a disaster. It's like a disaster. And that's the standard American diet. Sugar, loaded up with sugar, processed foods. We've got to get away from that. We've got to learn the right way to put good nutrition into our bodies. And we're going to be talking about that. We're going to put a lot of time, a lot of energy into that. So we're talking about changing our attitude, changing the way we think, the way we process life. We've got to be focused on what we put into our body, the nutrients that we put into our body. It's so critical. And then the third pillar of health is exercise. And this is kind of hilarious, but in our area, Montana, we have these, what we call the green boxes. So they're these big, huge, they're probably like 8 feet tall and probably 6 by 6 feet wide. And you take your garbage out of your house and you drive down to these green boxes. And you throw your garbage into the green boxes, but it kind of becomes a little bit of a shopping mall for some types of people. They kind of scrounge through those places and find some good deals that people were throwing away. But anyway, one time I remember right after hearing about my friend that got involved in this horrible situation with getting his leg cut off, I remember thinking, I gotta do something. And literally, at that time, I could not run. And I could barely walk like 100 yards without being gassed. And I just gotta do something. I didn't know what to do. And I drove up with our garbage up to these green boxes. And there, sitting, somebody did me this great favor. And there, sitting right beside the green box, was this really awesome old, I think it was a Huffy. I still have a picture of this thing, but it was a red 12-speed bike. And I thought, man, I think I might be able to ride a bike. And so it looked like it was in fairly good shape. I think the front brakes worked on it, and I put a little air in one of the tires, and it worked. So I started off, and that's how I started my journey to good health. And now, not only can I ride my bike, I can ride it like over 100 miles. I can run marathons. I can swim miles in the water. And I worked up to that. And we're going to be talking about how you can do that. Now, you might not want to do that kind of crazy stuff, and to be honest with you, I don't know how healthy that intensive exercise is, but you got to do something to get your heart rate up, and you got to do something to get your body moving so that you can be healthy. And it's so critical to get an exercise program. And we're going to be talking about how to get started. If you're stuck on the couch like I was and you can't hardly move and you're in pain, and we're going to be talking about that. And it might require some help from the doctor. I didn't, because I caught it in my early 50s. But we're going to be talking about all that. And just how your body is so amazing, and it can recover from some of the negative things that have gone on in your life physically. So we're going to be talking about that. So we've talked about the 3 pillars so far: accurate thinking, nutrition, getting the right food in your body, exercise, getting your body working so that you can have some energy for your life. And the last thing, but I think is probably for me the most important thing, and the most impactful thing for me to take steps towards good health, is my spiritual life. And I know, like when I say that, it's like sometimes it's fingers on the chalkboard. This guy's going to try and, I don't know what he's going to do with this, and everybody starts getting uncomfortable. But I'm telling you, 95% of the people in America, and I'm not sure it might be the world, but I know it's in America, believe that there's a God. And so I'm going to go with that. I know that there's people who don't believe that. Maybe if you're in that boat, maybe you just skip over this part of getting healthy. But I think this is so critical. For me, it was so critical to get things lined up spiritually and get to the place where I was in a good place spiritually. And some of the tools that I used for that, and maybe this will help you so you're not so threatened, or this doesn't seem so threatening. I use meditation. I use fasting and prayer, and those are the things that I really highlight in my sphere of getting healthy. And I think pretty much all of us can agree on getting on board with those things. And I'm gonna show you how I use those 3 tools to get extremely healthy. And I think you're going to enjoy it. So stick with me. I mean, if you have to, plug your nose once in a while if I start grating on your nerves, or fast forward the video or whatever. But we're going to get into all those things. But those are my 4 pillars of men's health. And it's not like you can go to the gym and work out and get some big muscles and ignore the other 3 areas of your life. You can't. It's like a hemorrhage. It's like a guy walking around with a big old, like, bloated belly. He's got the big muscles, but there's other areas of his life that are out of whack. And you have to focus on a well-rounded program for getting healthy. And if we focus on these 4 pillars that I call them, of accurate thinking, exercise and nutrition, and spirituality, I think it's going to be huge for you like it was for me. And I'm so glad that you've joined me in this journey. And in our next session, just to give you a little bit of a little teaser, we're going to be talking about another very critical area of getting healthy. And that's kind of goes back to the nugget, or the core of why we do this. Why not just stick with McDonald's? Why not just stay on the couch? Why not just take the easy route? Why not just do that? And it has to do with you as a person, and who you are, and how important you are to yourself, to your sphere of influence, and maybe your family and those around you. And we're going to be getting a deep dive into that. So make sure and stick with me on this next one. But a little introduction. Remember these 4 pillars. Remember them again. What were they? The first one was get yourself, your mind, accurate thinking. The next one was nutrition. Start eating food that's good for your body. The third one was exercise, and the fourth one was your spiritual life. You got to get that tuned up. And so thanks for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one. We're going to be talking about you as an important human being, and I hope you join me.